I will call to order the study session for the city of Lathrup Village. And two, I think I just got shot. Oh, not very good. So during the study session, everything, just want to make sure that you see it addressing the city council portion. If you do have any questions or you want to be heard, please wait until it comes to public comment and we'll go from there. So who would like to bring up the budget? Maybe the city manager?
I'm going to say something before she brings it up. I am elated about the budget book. I think she did a great job.
Absolutely.
And it's awesome to have that after a 2-year absence. It'll be great for the residents to be able to understand where our finances are going. And it's great for us when we're working in projects to be able to look at things longitudinal and have the explanation. I think it's awesome. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
Welcome. I will say I slept almost all day Saturday after surviving on 3 or 3.5 hours of sleep every night this last week. So are you ready for me to move forward then?
I am ready for you to move forward.
All right. So I've handed out a little highlight sheet just to kind of walk through with you. Obviously, if you have any questions and you want to ask them in addition to this, please feel free to do so. I'm very happy to answer that. But wanted to start out with on page 29 of the workbook or the budget book, just to let you know where we're at with our villages this year.
Is it
Page
29?
29, I'm sorry, page 29.
Does that start with road funds, lease of BTS building?
No, if you're not in your, I'm sorry, in the budget book itself, if you look down in the little corner, I'm not on the,
I don't have a book.
it was what was in your packet.
So it's on here.
It's on there, it's just not listed as the page for the document. It's, if you look down in the corner there, you should be able to find.
So it's page 29, but it's not reflected. So this would not be correct on, if a resident went online, it wouldn't be correct now.
Yeah, I don't have.
So this is gonna actually be page
30.
30. Yeah.
Page 30 in the packet.
Thank
Okay. So we're off by
I wonder.
Okay. Okay, so our millage rate is staying the same this year as it was last year. The total rate for the city is 24.1266 mils. General operating is 16.5618. Refuse is 2.6341. Library is 1, and debt service is 3.9307. So that gives us an anticipated revenue of $5,035,719, which is actually a decrease from last year's funds for revenue stream of $65,000. And then expenditures are also decreased. Took a lot of work to do that. I wanted to try to present a balanced budget for the general fund. It's very important to do that. And I will walk you through how that happened. But our expenditures are $5,034,800, and the decrease is $268,149. So it shows us with a surplus of $919. Woo! So that was wonderful. Pam and Kelda were here on Friday night, or Pam and Jessica were here on Friday night, and I was absolutely smack happy once I got to that point and was able to get us above water. So our government services, I don't know if you have any other questions on anything between that page. It's probably page 58 in your booklet, or page 57 if you have a printed version in front of you.
A couple minor ones.
Oh, sure.
On page 30 of the booklet, 31 in the packet, yeah. This, where it shows, you break out the millage rates in another way, and you show the city of 20.9198. How did you get to that number? Because I tried from the previous page, I tried adding up the two combinations and I couldn't get up to that number.
Actually, this is wrong. This should be putting these numbers up here, so that's another thing to correct in the booklet. If you look above the numbers there, it should be reflecting the 24 for the city, and county should be at, that's the same, so. He's on page
Page 30 of the packet, 31 of the packet, 30 of the booklet.
You guys there?
Yeah, so I'm not following what you're saying, so.
You're not following what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yes, can you do it again?
So in the bracket above, where it says taxing unit millage rate and gives percentages for
Yep.
school, county, and everything. Oh, that is that, okay. So the city amount, I'm gonna have to look at that because, yeah,
I was just thinking it might be a spreadsheet error or something like that, but you should tie out to something on the prior page.
yes,
Some
it
combination
should,
of those numbers.
right, it should be exactly the same thing, so, because this is showing, what your millage is for general operating, our total for city should be 24.1266. And this is showing 20.9498, so that I must have pulled the one from 19 in there. So I will fix that. Okay, thanks for catching that.
Yeah, and the other question I had was on page 35 of the booklet, so that'd be 36 of the packet.
Yep.
Down at the bottom, where we've got the ending fund balance of 1.2 million, and then below that, I was a little confused. Actually, it'll help if you look at page 14 at the same time. So you've got the 904, the 705, the 1.8 million, and the 2.7 million.
Say that again, I'm not sure.
So in the green, at
Uh-huh.
the bottom, the fund balance.
Oh, yep.
So are those numbers supposed to be the ending fund balance? Because if you tie it back to page 14, those are showing, those numbers match the revenue column on page 14. So for example, in major streets on page 14, in the overview, you show 904, 743, and then you've got 904, 743 here. So I guess my question is, are those first four numbers, are those supposed to be revenue or ending fund balance?
Those are ending fund balance where we project to be at the end of that year.
Right, so then I think we picked up the wrong columns from page 14, because it's pulling the revenue column off of page 14 instead of the ending fund balance column.
Okay, so, yes, right, it's supposed to be your estimated.
Fund balance on that thing. Yeah, I think you just got the wrong reference in the spreadsheet.
Okay.
And then one other minor thing on this page, where you've got the 400 for capital acquisitions, and then, on page 14, I don't see a 400 at all anywhere on that.
As a gain. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm not sure that number needs to be checked.
I know that is, that's kind of towards the end, that talks about where that 400 came from. Right?
Yes, it's minor, but it should tie out to that other table.
Yep. Okay,
Yeah.
I got that.
Yeah, so those 5 numbers right there.
Okay,
And that's all I had up to that point.
okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of things you might want to do this line item by line item.
Is there something specific you want to ask? I said I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I have a whole bunch of things. I do want to set something straight from the last meeting, however. It's been repeated multiple times that we didn't ask questions at any of the budget sessions last year. We had meetings on June 1st and on June 13th. I watched the meetings again, and we had a 3.5-hour meeting on June 13th, and there were a lot of questions asked. And I specifically asked questions about the 5% salary increase, and then I was shut down at 7 minutes, 41 seconds into the 3.5 hours. So, but then in the 3.5 hours, there were a lot of questions asked. So I really don't, I want to get that right out into the community that we spent a lot of time and a lot of thought on the budget last year as we're doing the same this year. Okay, bear with me. There's a discrepancy, page 13 of the packet, page 12 of the booklet. First paragraph, it says that we replaced 3,650 lineal feet of water mains, and 4,230 lineal feet proposed in 2023. But
I'm
in
sorry, where are you at?
page, the first paragraph,
Oh, okay, page 12, sorry.
it says we've replaced this much of the water mains, but in minutes from one of the meetings where the infrastructure committee was on, and then also multiple times you've said that you've replaced 15,000 feet of water mains. So I'm just wondering why these things are not matching up.
This is sewer line. And
It
these are
says
the
water,
numbers that
it
I
says
was,
water mains.
there's water main and sewer lines that are there that have been done.
I see 11,460 sewer lines, 3,650 is water mains, and then 4,230 this year.
Yeah, I know what the discrepancy is the time period. This is showing just the time period of the millage, or, I'm sorry, the capital improvement bond. So this doesn't include, things like Santa Barbara, which was the year before, where there was a mile, done. And then I think, there was also a tiny piece of Bloomfield and Wilshire. So those wouldn't be included in this, because it's showing the capital improvement fund.
Okay, are there studies available that have shown, look at our water main infrastructure? What studies were done, what reports were done to show that adding a new line on Santa Barbara is going to increase our, water pressure, water flow? And then adding another line on Bloomfield, and now one on my street was, replaced.
Yes, all of those are to increase water flow within that area, and that has been done through the fire hydrant flow testing and modeling of the hydraulics through the city.
Okay,
That is
I would
done
like
each year.
copies of the reports that showed what this was going to do, because I don't see that the water pressure improved after that. And so if we're moving forward and putting more money towards these things, I just want to make sure that what is being done is having an impact.
And that's something that
Saratoga was
we're-
supposed to be replaced, and then all of a sudden it was funded. So I don't know what the, what the studies are. I know it hasn't been in conjunction with the fire department. So I just want to know what kind of studies are we using to show what parts need to be addressed.
Yep, and as soon as they complete the fire hydrant flow testing that they're doing currently right now throughout the city, they will do another hydraulic modeling of the water flow system based off of those
Who's that?
results.
that?
The fire department gives their flow data that comes back to Giffords Webster, and that is put together using that information.
Okay, I would like to see what's been done previously that determined what was going to be addressed.
Any other questions?
I did it page by page.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'm gonna continue moving on.
Go ahead. And let's know, Karen, that she didn't make it.
Page 29 of the booklet, I'm sorry, page 29 of a packet, 28 of the booklet. Soccer refund reflects a refund of monies from the sale of excess property. Is that Soccer's excess property or our excess property?
Those are definitions that were in the booklet previously. I will check and see if that's still relevant.
Yeah, a lot of those definitions come in from like one-time things, and then they just hang on for year after year.
Right. Okay. Is there anything else? Am I able to move forward?
What are we doing
I
here?
thought
You
he-
keep saying, can we move forward, and you're going page 5.
Well, she
Well,
asked me-
I have this that I kind
So
of want
what-
to go through. It's
So
the
what she's trying to
highlights.
do is do the budget highlights, and then we can jump into the budget. I'm coming in,
Yeah.
since I stepped out.
Then
So
we're gonna
should-
do line by
So
line, or-
then, once we go through the budget highlights, then we will be able to dive into line by
Deeper,
line.
deeper discussion on these things, so.
Yeah, so she was asking for any questions to page for that one.
Okay.
So you,
Page 37?
37 was it, Sue?
It was page
35.
35,
35.
so it's 36 online, 35 in the booklet. So if there are no other questions, then we're going to jump to page 47 in the printed booklet, 48, I believe, online.
Is that gonna be general fund expenditures?
Yes, it's the pie chart that is there. I wanted to show you that in the breakdown of costs. There's also a page right before that, so it'd be 46 in the booklet, 47 in your page or in online there. So government services are coming in at $567,550, administration at $927,628. $127,859 for building and grounds. DPS which also includes LEAP and SACRA, the refuse pickup, is $870,784. Recreation is $13,750. Police department is $2,527,230. And the contingencies, capital fund is 0 because we're actually taking that out of fund balance rather than having to transfer into that or out of that. So I kind of got this split apart where you can see police department expenses for police and public safety. It's not just the police department itself. It also includes fire, EMS, and dispatch contract that we have through Southfield Fire Department to make up more than 50% of our general fund expenditures. Government services is 11.27%. Administration is 18.42%. Buildings and grounds is 2.54%. DPW, along with LEAP and refuse, is 17, a little over 17%, and recreation is 0.27%. So I will go into each of these areas more in depth for you, just so that you see that. But overall, we've really tried to trim down things. There's a decrease in expenditures of $214,140 for the projected budget. And as we go into each one of these, I will explain how we came up with that. Each of these departments make up government services where we classify and categorize things. It is our administration, public safety, public services, and recreation. So I just wanted to go over that in the general acquisitions or contingencies and capital fund there. So if there are no other questions on that page, I'll get into the explanation. One of the biggest things I wanted to point out to you on page 57, which would be 58 online. You'll notice down at the bottom of the page, there's $200,000 that is in red. That's a decrease in cost there. That is due to the generator. That was a use of ARPA funds. It was going to help fund replacing the generator, doing all the legwork leading up to that. And that will be put in place prior to the end of this current fiscal year. So that $200,000 helped us to shave down quite a bit of money out of that account going forward. Also wanted to go to administration, which is page 63 in your book, or 64 online. I did include a 2% wage increase for staff, administrative staff across the board, which is $6,022 of the total budget out of administration. Fringe benefits, we did clean some of that up, so there was actually a decrease in that of 23,000. And then I wanted you to see that elections, we budgeted 60,000 for the year, so that's an additional 50,000 on top of this current year that we're in, because we have some big elections coming up and lots of additional requirements requiring there's a whole gamut of that. We have to be open for people to be able to vote 9 days prior to, and that, you know, we're gonna have to figure out what that means for security, and lock the boxes up, who's responsible for that. There's a whole lot of things that I'm not sure got thought out quite well when that new legislation passed. So we're not the only community that is struggling with that. Under administration, there is an increase. The total amount being spent out is $927,628. So there's an increase of $32,770 for this coming year. And as I've explained on the little handout here, if there are no questions on that right now, we'll come back to these as you have questions. Wages are on the following pages.
Why are legal services only $600?
I'm sorry, where are you at?
64.
Board of Review?
That's Board of Review.
Legal services says $600.
I don't know where Board of Review says under.
Board of
Legal
Review
services,
says
legal services say,
50,000.
58,000.
She's looking at comparison of all expenditures at the bottom of page 63, 64.
Oh, down at the bottom.
yes.
I think that needs to be shifted down. Those are the correct numbers. I just need to make sure that I have them in the correct columns for comparison of all fiscal years. So thanks for catching that, Karen. Any other questions? If we move on to page 71, or I'm sorry, not 71. I'm trying to cross off what I've got to do something, so I'm not going to do something. Page 77 in your booklet or 78 online for public safety. Again, just breaking out the cost that we have for public safety. It's an increase of $126,974 overall. Roughly 95,000 of that are wage and fringe that we are tied to with the union contract. And then I did put a placeholder in for fire and service, EMS, fire and dispatch, with a 5% increase. I was able to speak with the manager at Southfield, and he talked somewhere between 8% and 2%, but it wouldn't be 2%, it won't be 8%, so I just threw 5% in there to hopefully give us a cushion. It might be more than that, it might be less than that, but that is the number that we're supposed to have a meeting this week and get that finalized. So this will be finalized before the budget is actually adopted. And moving forward to page 85 in your book, or 86 online. We'll go to public services, which is our DPW. Just wanted to point out that our expenses for this fiscal year are $870,784, and we're showing a decrease of $18,936 due to lower anticipated sidewalk maintenance programs or expenses. Soccer fees have increased $18,131, and I've also included a 2% increase for Lathrup services. So you see all of those projections that are in there.
Thanks. A couple questions on this page.
Absolutely.
So what was so in the previous version of the budget for the sidewalk maintenance program, the decrease was even, and then it dropped, a little bit, maybe a little bit less than, a little bit of a decrease, but then it dropped to about 34,000. So what, do you remember how that dropped?
Are you talking about between estimated and actual?
No, between the last version of the budget that we had last week. This number was.
Yeah, it's me trying to shave money wherever I can,
Okay.
Trying to get a balanced budget and looking historically at what we have been spending as opposed to what we had projected or estimated. So I was trying to stay more in line with that. And I know this year was a very hefty sidewalk program. The coming year, we scaled back quite a bit, so that's where I felt that we could kind of shave that down a little bit.
Okay. And then one other question, for the contractual services, just about in the middle of the page, just above the blue line, 129,009 in the projected column.
Mhm.
Is that for the DPW doing leaf collection? I
No,
was trying to figure, because, go ahead.
yeah, no. I don't know why it's set up this way in the spreadsheets that I inherited, but this is their actual, if you go back to page 82 in your book or 83 online, it breaks out what their actual, their public services are. So this budget year, they're getting paid $126,479 for their work that they do. This
Who's
is
that?
Lathrup Services.
So it is DPW?
Yeah,
Okay, that's
it
what I was
is
saying.
DPW,
Yeah,
yeah, but it's also inclusive of all of these other things. It's broken out between general public services, general refuse, well, that's zero, major streets, local streets, water, sewer, and that's how we break it out, which shows the percentages above that on page 82 or 83.
So I guess then my question is, so that 129,000, I'll go real slow here because I'm three different numbers. That 129,009, which is the actual service number, 7,000 below that in the green line, and the 387,925 on the next green line. Those three add up to the very bottom on the green line where it shows the eligible for refuse millage, 523,934. So those three numbers added together equal to 523,934. So I guess what I'm curious about is the 129,000. If that's DPW just doing all the different things that they do, how is that all eligible for the refuse millage?
Yeah, I don't think that
three
is.
mills.
Yeah, I'll have to look at the figure there. I know that they've had it budgeted over here in this year's budget.
I mean, some of it is because they
Very
did
similar.
the leaf collection. So I would assume some of their services would be representative in the three mills that we get for refuse, but not all of their work.
Okay, I'll check the formula on that to make sure that that's correct there. And if you go to page 92 or 93, depending on if you're online or here with the book, hard copy. This is where we had to peel back additional things. We had to make the hard decision or staff is making the recommendation to council that the Parks and Recreation position not be filled at this time due to budget constraints. Again, as I shared last week, if it comes down to having somebody that can do our water billing, our treasurer's job, our deputy treasurer, our clerk's job, any of the administration jobs, those are things we absolutely have to have in order to function as a city. these are wonderful things to be able to provide to the city, but they're wants, they're not needs. It's very difficult when you don't have money, you know, where do you come up with that? And it's hard to make those numbers, fit into a budget, a balanced budget. Some of those cuts have to come from somewhere. So, looking at this,
These are the kind of things that keep people in the community.
Well, one thing we could talk about, and I have this on my notes, I'll talk about it at the end, but, since we're here now, you know, we're showing, you know, right now a $919, surplus. I mean, you know, we as council can decide whether or not we want to dip into the general fund. I mean, you know, we've done it for the first 2 times in decades, the last 2 years, that was kind of a major dip in the last 2 times, but, you know, we want to say $15,000 or $5,000 or something, we can make that decision if you think that, you know, if we're okay pulling that out of the general fund, which the general fund is pretty healthy, so it's something we can talk about.
We did make that decision last year to have hire a part-time person at 30,000, so I'm not sure, but that wasn't followed through.
because the budget was still upside down, and again, the needs don't match, or the wants don't match the needs. I know council wants to be able to provide these things, and my suggestion on page 89, under the recreation department, or 90, and if you're online, the last sentence of this written portion says the city must look for new and creative ways to be able to continue offering activities for residents. Citizen-led events and activities will need to be the focus going forward until new or alternative revenue sources are generated to cover these costs. It's one thing to look at a budget and say, this year we can afford to put $15,000, $20,000 into it, but long-term, you can't continue to take out of your fund balance and remain happy, or not happy, but you can't remain fiscally sound if you keep spending from your fund balance if you don't have the revenues coming in to cover that. You wouldn't do that in your home finances and live very well for very long. You know, you've got to have a balanced budget in your own home. It's the same thing, if not more important, in local government. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not saying that we can't do things with the community. It's just stuff that we're going to have to look for alternative ways to make this happen. Like a lot of the things that Barb has been doing for Parks and Rec, sponsoring, not sponsoring, but putting together, helping to organize, and now getting other citizens involved in organizing events. Those are things that still continue to bring the community together. It offers them a place to come and network or greet each other, or, you know, hang out together, do things together. It's just not stuff that the city is able to afford to do at this point in time unless we find other revenue sources.
But if it's a priority of the community, we can't depend upon volunteers to do it. It's not going to be sustainable. Barb will be burned out in another year.
But
Or less.
that's something that council will have to seriously look at. You also are tasked to be fiscally responsible. So if it comes to balancing the budget or continuing to spend out of the fund balance year after year after year after year, you have to be fiscally responsible in the role that the citizens elected you, and you have to communicate back to them. We simply, we're strapped by what we can do because of Headley, because of Prop A. We don't have the revenue streams coming in that we should have. Our,
How do we go from spending $132,998 in 2018-19 down to $13,750 this year? We had a balanced budget back then. How did that happen? Where did that money go?
What page are you on?
91. I'm on page 91.
well, I don't have a balance of that.
Yeah, we did.
That's 2 years.
I don't think we've had a balanced budget in the last couple of years.
No, this was in 1918.
18-19.
2018, 2019. The budget wasn't balanced then either?
Yes, it was.
That's 2 or 3 years where we're running deficit.
So,
That I don't know. don't know. Okay. Moving on to page 98 or 99 of your book. So I just wanted to show you, this year we had capital purchases. We had 2 police cars that were purchased. Upgrade them, electric computers, everything. They don't call the bells. But all of those things were budgeted for last year. We did come in just barely 3,000 over what had been budgeted for other things as well that were part of the capital expenditures. This year, again, the very last page of your budget book shows the breakdown of the capital expenditures. We'll get to that, so don't turn there yet. But it's $41,300, and that is going to come out of the fund. So there's not any change shown here whatsoever coming out of this revenue stream. So it will be taken from the acquisition fund balance. If you will turn to page 102 or 103, depending if you're in the books that are online. Major streets revenues decreased this year by $421,735. Part of that is we've reduced the amount of the transfer from the street bond revenue based on from projects that will be done. So that decreased that revenue stream. And our Act 51s or 51 funds increased $30,472 to $404,143. And our total expenses are $204,328, which is an increase of $773 from the previous year. And previously, our expenditures were budgeted at $203,555. So there's a change in that. For local streets, if you go to page 114 or 115, our revenues have decreased $860,707. Again, that is transferred from street bond money because we have reduced that to $500,000 to cover projects that we will have coming in the next year. Act 51 funds increased $14,342 to $190,186. And our total expenditures are $846,160, a decrease of $759,391 from the previous year because we have fewer street projects that will be happening next year. So that is reflected in that account.
Transferring from both of them equals the expenditures, so thanks for placing that.
Yep.
You're welcome.
So going forward into the water department, if you turn to page 128 or 129. The water main project is $434,000. Our capital improvement program is $465,000. And our water rates are $45.69 per 1,000 cubic feet. And I did put in there the breakdown of what the monthly charges will be, in the sewer as well. So your water, the minimum bill for 4 units on a 3/4 inch water meter will be increasing from $32.71 to $32.91. And the sewer bill will be increasing from $34.04 to $34.95. So we will, I'm sorry, I'm already jumping into the sewer fund. Are there any questions on the water?
Yeah, can we go to page 122? So I found something, so remember last time when I talked about, on this page that we had, we don't have it in this, but in the last version, and I found that, you had the, city piece in here twice.
Mhm.
So it looks like what happened, for the water sales is that you corrected that here as well, but it didn't need to be corrected here, because so that you got the three components that go into our revenue. You've got the capital, you've got the city, and you've got the stop law. So about 5 lines down, you've got the replacement reserve revenue, so that's the capital. And then in the detailed line, in the first line here, water sales, that's typically the stop law plus the city, but this is only
That's what we see there.
let's see, it is, where it's down here, yeah, so 17.26, yeah, so it's the city. And so it needs to be city and Saco, because our revenue is what we get from the residents, which is the city and the Saco. So that's actually good news, because that's gonna add 360, yeah, so that number should actually be 691,996. So that's gonna increase our revenue in the water fund by about 300,000, a little over 300,000.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The water sales should be what?
So water sales here should be 691,996. So right now, it's just the city component of the water bill, but it should be the city and Southwest.
Okay.
And I think I have one other question on water. Yeah, on page 128.
Or 129.
Yeah, or 129 if you're in the packet page number. So the blue lines are the capital improvement bond expenses, and so I'm a little confused on the difference between the water main project for 434,000 and the water main replacement a little bit down further for 300,000. I know we additionally approved Lincoln and San Diego in addition to Glenwood and Bloomfield and whatever the third one was that we're doing. But I'm trying to figure out why there's two different line items on there for water main. Together, together, it still looks a little low, because I think we approved 600, if I remember correctly, 687,000 for Lincoln and San Diego. And
Right.
then we had I'm gonna guess probably 100 or 200,000 for the other three smaller ones that we were doing.
So, yeah, I did talk to Scott. These were on the list that he had, Scott Ringler,
Yeah.
for this coming year to be included. So that's where I pulled those numbers from.
Yeah, can you find out from
I'll
him
verify.
what, email us back, what we find out? 'Cause
What's the difference between project and replacement?
right, I mean, in total, I'm guessing we're spending somewhere around $800,000 or more on water main. So those two numbers, maybe they're right, maybe together they're right, but I'd like a little bit more detail on those numbers, please. And that's all I have on water.
Page 129 and 130. We've got retirees' medical insurance for $164,328. That's coming out of the water fund. Is that all employees or all retirees, or what does that cover?
That would only, sorry, I'm trying to find the line. That is for anybody that worked in DPW previously. Before things switched over to Lathrup services, before contracts or people that are hired on now, the benefit, the pension system is closed, so they can't join into that. This is still our liability that we have to pay out every year that helps to cover that pension fund.
And there was something the water fund was supposed to pay back the general fund a certain amount of money because they transferred too much.
Oh, no, I think, so if we're talking about the same thing, I think that was just a comment that I was making about how the.
Talking about an audit. Yeah, it's supposed to be for 10 years, that it was supposed to be paid back, from the water fund to the general fund because too much had been transferred. I don't see that, in here.
I am not sure on that, I'll have to ask.
Okay. And then also, wasn't it part of, the sick days and vacation days that are owed? Isn't that also part of the water fund?
Hang on just a second, I'm trying to write down what you asked.
Oh.
Okay, I'm sorry, what was your question?
Also in the audit, it mentions the compensated vacation, sick days that we will owe when people leave. I thought that was coming out of the water fund somewhere, but I don't see that.
I'm not even sure what you're asking. If you're talking about being able to track vacation and compensation time, somebody works, in the evening, they bank compensated hours, and then they can take that from the audit. Our tracking system was not what they wanted it to be, which is why we have gone through ADP to set up, which is our payroll system, to set up timesheets and tracking, to be able to track that. That was my understanding of the audit requirement. So I'm not sure. If you find that in the audit, what you're asking about, if you can send that to me, then I can look into it further.
Well, I remember
That's part of actually the transfer piece that was over transferred, I believe. It's a liability. We have a liability to pay that. And I thought it was allocated towards the water fund.
one thing that I remember similar to that was I think at one point we were talking about the treasurer has a lot of days banked up that we would have to pay them on, or on if, upon retirement, or, I know that was accounted for at some point. It was, do you remember, Scott? It was a few years ago we talked about that.
I'm not sure why it would be in a water fund, though, that's.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the
the only thing,
question. Why is it?
Well,
That
the-
is
or
in
that's
the-
what it
it's
is,
what's
yeah.
in the
well, the only thing I could think of is that since her time is allocated percentage-wise to different departments, maybe there was a small amount that went into the water fund, but I don't know.
It was a large amount, but let we can check that out.
Okay, going to page 138 or 139 for the sewer expenditures. Our sewer rate is going to increase from $87.37 per cubic, or per 1,000 cubic square feet, if I say that correctly, which is an increase of 2.05%. Sewer rates include $273,000 in sewer maintenance, sewer system maintenance, contracting with Oakland County Water Resource Commissioner for the operation and maintenance of the sanitary retention tank, and our expenditures for this coming fiscal year are $3,083,000 $1,682 and includes $858,226 for retention tank repairs, which shows the account to be an increase of $623,199 overall out of that entire amount. So the retention tank repairs will be taken from capital expenditures. So I don't know if anybody has any questions there. Otherwise, I'll move on to our debt service. Your debt service is on page 144 or 145. There's just a highlighted line across. It shows what we have for our sewer bonds of $82,113 that we have to pay back this year, and our SRF sewer bonds, which are $41,804. And then capital improvements is your very last page, and it breaks it down into, shows what the $41,300 will be spent on. For administration side, it will be for the website upgrade. I put $10,000 in there as a place marker. We do have a grant that we are getting for up to $25,000 to do this work, so that money, again, it's just a placeholder. Computer upgrades are $5,000. Phone system upgrade, I put a place marker in of $10,000. It may be more, it may be less. I've not gotten quotes yet. We just found that out. Public safety is the tasers. Those are $4,500. I want to say per year that we do that. Mobile data computer replacement is $3,000. The Guardian tracking software is $1,000. Computer upgrades for public safety is $2,500, and the Power DMS is $5,300. So that is a snapshot of the budget. So if you have questions now that you want to go back through and ask individually, I'm happy to do that, going back to the beginning. I know it's tempting to go line by line by line, but if you have specific questions, if you can kind of point those out, I'm more than happy to go over that with you.
I've got one on the last page.
Okay.
So why do we need a placeholder in there for the website upgrade, since we have a grant? And I guess the second question is do grants get included as revenue in the budget? Because I didn't see it.
Not unless we know exactly what the grant is going to be. We try not to, because you
You
never
never know
know.
what's gonna happen. Right?
Yeah, try not to, because then they're a pleasant surprise at the end of the
Okay,
year.
so that's why we need a placeholder then.
Yeah. Any other questions?
And if you have any questions, please give a page number that you're referring to.
5152. Comparison of all expenditures. Let's see where it goes. Fiscal year 16-17, we were spending $434,831 on administration. Fiscal year 23-24, it's $927,628. Compare that with recreation in 2016-17, we spent $159,182, and now it's down to $13,750. Major street funds, we went from 195,303 to 779,33. Is that in anticipation of 11 Mile Southfield? What is that? $770,000.
Did your first comment, was that a question or was that just FYI?
No, it was an FYI, that there's a
Okay,
major
so,
imbalance here between
I
resident.
mean, there's also, the economy has changed within the 5-6 years also. So, there have been increases in administration salary.
Okay,
So just moving on to, what was your next question from the major streets?
I can answer your question from major streets. So when we,
is that how we do it when you have the council people answer any questions?
Well, it wasn't a question, you mean for my part, or are you talking about Bruce's? But if you tell us who you want to direct the question to, go from there.
Whatever, go ahead.
if you don't want the answer from me, I'm fine to not give you the answer.
Well,
So can you just please go ahead, someone please answer the question?
So a lot of this is found in your CIP booklet that I had asked you to make sure that you bring with you tonight as well.
Yes, yes.
So there are projects in there that will be included in the major street funds. Part of that is the road work on Southfield Road resurfacing 11 to 12 mile. There are other streets as part of that too. I will clarify that and list those streets slated for work.
Is something actually happening going to happen on Southfield Road?
There's work that's gonna happen, the road commission is gonna do, and that's gonna do some improvements over the bridge area there that crosses over 696. And we have striping that we need to do in there as well.
Okay, I would like to break down into that, because that would seem like $770,000.
Okay. Any other questions?
Page 57, 58. Government services, these are proposed expenditures. This is perhaps where we can make some cuts to put some things back into programs for residents. Memberships and meetings are going up $500. Auditing services is an additional $10,160 for a total of $45,000 for auditing services. Is that the extra auditing?
If you look at the column right next to that, to date, as of 3/31, we've spent $43,845. So that is just trying to,
I'm asking a question about what it is. When last year we approved additional work with Plant Moran, auditing services to help Pam out because she was overwhelmed, but we now have an assistant city treasurer that we've had for 9 months. So I'm wondering, is this the additional services, or is this how much our regular audit costs?
that's the regular audit.
45,000 for the audit?
That's what we have estimated there.
It doesn't include the extra that we've been paying.
I can check on that.
Please do. Also, the training is increased by $3,000. Here's the repayment to water unfunded pension, I believe is down near the bottom.
Yeah, those are all zeros, so I will have to check. That may have already been done, and that's why that line item is still there.
It's in the most recent audit, it was supposed to last for 10 years, so
I will clarify that.
check on that, please. Page 58, 59, we have a decrease, on citizen communication. Last year we had 15,000, this year it's down to 5,000. Thought that was one of the major priorities, was citizen communication.
Where are you at?
Page 58, 59.
If we can, I know you're asking questions. I would like to be able to answer them before you go on to the next thing.
The other ones weren't questions, they were just statements.
So just statements.
Yes, so just going to citizens communication on page 59. On the computer, on line 59 in the page, in the book. You see it?
So right here.
Yep.
Part of the reason why I have decreased that is, this is another way of trying to be creative in how we save money. It's not that I want to get rid of citizen communication. That includes printing and postage fees. But this is something that I truly believe we can continue to provide by sending out a quarterly newsletter of that way as an e-newsletter, but then printing copies to have here to hand out. Those citizens that we know that are our older population, our adoptive seniors, anybody else like that, we can make sure that we get printed copies. That will save us a lot more money than the publication. Again, this is something that we have to diligently look at in ways to save money.
Do we have a
things.
major communication issue, lack of communication with our residents, and we're cutting citizen communication,
We're
printing,
not cutting
publishing
it.
costs?
We're not
Postage
cutting
meter.
it, it's trying to find an alternate way to provide that to citizens. It's something that would still go out to everybody that signs up through the e-newsletter. It's something that will be posted on our website, it's something that will be posted on Facebook, and it's something that we will put copies that we print here at City Hall. It's a lot cheaper to do that than to spend $20,000 a year between, the printing costs and postage costs.
Well, unless something changed in the last couple of years, that's something that's really important to residents. So,
I'm not saying it's not important, it's just another way to be able to provide it. You're making it sound like we're taking it away completely, which is not what I'm asking.
we're
you to
doing
do.
what we did previously, where there wasn't anything because it was too expensive. And then, again, it was brought back. I don't know.
I'm not asking to take it away, I'm just asking a different mechanism to be able to provide it to the residents.
But we had a different mechanism electronically, and people really like to have a copy of your town. Much easier to have, it's almost a handbook of the things that are important in the city. And scrolling through e-newsletter every week that has the same things over and over.
Well, this would be a different publication that would go out.
And why did the postage meter go from $4,924 to $41,000 if we're not doing mailings?
Yeah, I see. Oh, that's supposed to be the liability insurance, that's up a line.
And then miscellaneous, $25,000, so a small sum. $25,000 is a pretty large sum. What will that be used for?
Is this whole?
Again, I think that got shifted up. If you go back to the
Yeah, the whole
previous
thing
page
shifted,
and
yeah.
look, I will have to fix that page.
Sorry.
It's much more reasonable. Cash short over 50,000.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Cash short over 50,000.
58 or 57?
She's on 59 or 58.
58, yeah.
It's at,
On the same page, so fine.
again, it should be MERS contribution. Like I said, those are shifted, so I need to fix that page completely. Just to make sure that they're all, that's one of those things when you're pulling from other sheets that if you don't have the right, and I tried to check it, but it's a lot. But thank you for catching that.
You're welcome.
Library contracts is in there, it's 132.
If you turn it over and go to the other page, that's where I would tell you to read it from for this year. Like I said, these need to be shifted.
Is the library contract 132 or 172? Because 1 mil would be 172, we're contracted for 1 mil.
Oh, yep, 172, so that's gonna throw up there, was our balance.
Page 65, oops, sorry. Page 65, 66.
Mhm.
City treasurer, there's nothing under pension?
I don't know why that didn't fall. I will ask.
Then also UBAP specialist, water sewer accounts payable, is that the same position?
That is they're split between the two because one comes out of water and sewer and one comes out of the general fund. So they're both the same.
It's the same position, just split up in the middle.
Yep.
Okay, and then in the past, the assistant treasurer handled the water portion, is that still the case or not? I don't see.
Handles the water portion. I'm not sure what you mean. The water billing?
Yeah, just overseeing it. I don't see the assistant treasurer in this list.
Yeah, it's DT/account 2,
What is that? What's DT?
deputy treasurer.
Yeah. Page 67, 66, 67. You have the summary of employees with pay distributed between more than one fund.
Mhm.
I also don't see the treasurer on here, or the assistant treasurer, and is it part of Pam's?
That's under administration.
Oh, you have a breakdown below that, summary of employees, city administrator, accounts payable, water, community economic development. I don't see the treasurer.
I believe the treasurer is all under general. It says 90% there. I will check on that too.
Page 77, 78. Training programs, we got, oh, never mind, that's the same question, 15,000. What is Michigan Job Training Programs?
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
Page 77, 78. Public safety expenditures. Closer to the bottom, Michigan Job Training Programs, $2,000.
Oh, yeah, it's training that they go through. I don't have a specific, but it's the types of trainings that the police go to.
Different than the training programs above for 15,500 and firearms training for 9,000.
Yes.
Okay. Can you get some more explanation of that, please? Page 78, 79. Also public safety crime prevention programs. So, 2018-19, we were spending $3,051. We're now spending $40. In light of all of the break-ins that we've had, with vehicles and whatever, I'm wondering what we have in place to deal with those things. And I, those crime prevention programs that was going to spend $40. Which reflects the cost of community meetings, contributions to city functions, and related printed materials.
Is that a question or you just,
Yeah, why are we only spending $40 on something? Is there somewhere else in this budget that is specifically with, some of the things that are going on. I mean, I know they're happening all over the place, but, what's happening specifically here and where are the funds to deal with those things.
Yeah, I will ask on that.
And is our crime up or just seem like it? We find that out also.
I think there's a report that comes out every month in your disbursement, or not your disbursement, but in your regular packet of seeing that, so.
Right, there's a lot of auto burglaries.
I think what's happening is, it's more people that are posting about it more than crime going up, and, we can talk about that part during our actual meeting, if you like. But in regards to this, you want to know about, what we're doing about the crime prevention program.
Yeah, where's,
Right,
And
and
you
that's
have that
just
question now.
publication and programs, but yes, I will ask on that.
All right, thank you.
page 7980, salaries and wages overtime, $50,000. I thought that, we had talked about hiring more officers, but that kind of got rid of the overtime, but that seems like a pretty large amount still.
It's still something that you have to budget for, because there are times when our officers are going to have to work overtime. It's not that we are so short-staffed anymore. It was a very concerted effort to make sure that we hired additional police officers to help offset that cost, because it costs more to pay everybody overtime than it did to hire additional personnel. But we still have to budget for that in case we do have those expenditures. If you look back in the actual budget, looking at overtime, last year we spent $40,613. This year we're at $23,757. So we can't just put zero in there. We have to have a number in there to be a placeholder for that.
Okay, just 50,000 seems a little high, but if it was 43 last year, makes sense.
Anything else?
Anybody else have any questions? I know Karen's been asking a lot of questions, but I want to give time to others if they have questions as well.
Do you know about, I was curious about the vehicle expense because that's on page 57 or 58. I was just curious, unless maybe I missed something.
Again, it's just an area trying to trim. Actual expenditures for this year are $285 as compared to last year. So keep in mind that no matter how we try to put these numbers together, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me to be able to say, this is what the number is going to be, and it's never going to vary from that. And that's what budget amendments are all about.
And that's why it's projected.
Yeah, it's
Yes,
projected.
but I was just asking a question.
No, I'm not.
I know exactly that, I know that.
Yeah, but thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that though.
Yeah, I just wanted to see, was there, did something happen with the vehicles? Why is it?
No, it's just another where a
Okay.
place, I was trying to shave money where I could shave money.
Page 92 and 93.
So I think Barb had a question.
Oh, she can finish. This is mine, and then I'll just go through it.
She said,
92, 93, the community events is down to $5,000. So we're going to have residents running programs and there isn't even money for them to do the programs, but cut out the Parks and Rec person and cut out the funding.
My task is to put together a balanced budget. I presented a balanced budget, well, it was balanced until we found the.
40,000, keep in mind, we're gonna be $40,000 more in the hole, we've gotta
Right.
figure out where to cut.
Right, we're gonna cover that at, but again, I get that, I'm not saying that residents are not important, residents are important, but if you don't have the money to do these things with, I don't know where to bring that money from. And if I have to present a budget that is wants versus needs, I'm going to present the needs that we have over the wants. These, in my mind, these are wants. I would love to do every single program we possibly could for all of the residents. I would love to have that funded 120%. It's just realistically not there. It's not going to happen. So these are the numbers where I felt we could peel this down some. And again, I think we can put together events that bring the community out and together, but it's a more collaborative partnership with communities. I live in a community of 15,000 people. They don't spend this money on the residents in the community that I'm at. So it's something that is a tough call, it's a tough decision to make, but it's something that is very realistic.
It is, but we've had these cuts repeatedly, and yet we have 5% raise last year, we have a 2% raise across the board, we have raises in training and meetings and memberships and all those things. I think there needs to be some give and take here. That was my issue with the budget last year, a 5% increase. That was, I thought, unreasonable. I voted no on the budget because of that. Because the further we go, it's the programs that are important to residents that are continuously impacted. So, you know, if we don't keep people in the community.
So you brought up a question about salaries being increased in the administration portion. I would highly encourage council to do a wage study through the MML, have that completed to show us where we're at wage-wise, because we are underpaid here when you look at across the public sector, the private sector, even from community to community in local government. It's very hard to attract talent and bring talent here if you're not willing to pay the wages, if you're not willing to have the training to supplement that. The training that our staff goes through, those are things that help them do their jobs more effectively, more efficiently. It is not something that's a frivolous, oh, let's go to Hawaii for a week and the city will pay for it. That's not what we're talking about. These are things that are specific to their job function and help them understand that role. And it is a benefit to them that helps improve what they do, which in turn is a way to help lure them to come in. If you just take away or reduce, again, in previous communities that I have served in, my own budget for training was $4,000 a year. I don't see how you can expect a whole administrative staff to function on $6,000. That's not possible to be able to go for training and for memberships. My memberships alone are well over $1,000.
Right, but Howard, I guess I'm not seeing some connections between these trips to Boston or whatever. What's coming?
That is paid through the
Back
DDA. That
to
was
our
not
community.
paid through the city.
Okay, well, we pay part of the salary. What is being brought back to improve our community? What is being done that impacts our residents, that improves their life here? That was one of the reasons I wanted, is in the contract, that council has approval over what kind of trainings you go to.
So you're kind of mixing a
I'm
bunch
not
of
mixing
things.
up.
No, I'm not saying you're mixing, you're mixing a couple of things together. You're talking about Stu's contract, then you're talking about DDA's training,
It's training.
and then you're talking about training that we
I'm
all should be
talking about-
going,
I'm talking
we
about
all should be
training.
going to. So what we can do, it would be easier for Stu, is to be more specific in which training that you're really questioning, because it sounds like You're questioning where Susie and Brittany went to their training to Boston for the DDA. And then you're questioning what the training, that Sue goes to, that's a part of her contract. And then there's also training that all council members should be going to be updated and to learn new things that they can bring back to the community also. So I would just, my suggestion would be more specific in the overarching budget for training. Yes, that involves Sue's training and our training, and then and city staff, that's city staff training. So that encompasses a whole bunch, not just one.
There's meetings and memberships, there's training.
And so,
there's
yeah,
multiple
now for members and
trainings
for
and
meetings and membership, so there is membership that's required of city employees, required. That would be for like the city clerk, that would be for the city manager. So those are the things that maybe we should ask for that. What's a mandatory membership that each employee has? That might be better to figure that out, and then all over.
Well, that would be easy
separate
to do,
training.
but we don't get that specific information.
So specifically,
I don't
Sue,
know
will you
what
give us the training
those-
or the memberships that's required for each, for the treasurer, for you, for the city clerk, and for like the police department, the mandatory memberships they must have and the mandatory training they may have. And if you could give that to us by 1 month from now at our next meeting in June, that'd be great.
And you're questioning the value of training, yet you have not gone to
I'm
any
not
training
questioning.
yourself.
Bruce,
I'm
I have
serious.
years and
You haven't
years
gone to
and
any training
years of
yourself, you're
training.
questioning,
You don't have years of training
you
for
don't have
city
years of training, you have
council.
zero
And
training
so
for city
we actually
council.
have a long list from a resident that's upset about the fact that during your whole tenure, there's been no training that you've attended. And the fact is that what's the value added that you bring back, or that we bring back? We bring back the ideas from other communities in what they're doing, how they're getting awarded, how they're winning grants. We're getting ideas from that. Just like the fact, when you're a realtor, right? So as a realtor, you must go to training, right, every year, continuing ed, I think, right? And so it's kind of the same thing. I don't know.
How do you haven't done training? There's
I'm
training.
not saying that you didn't do training for your real estate,
I'm talking
whatever.
about
But I'm
for
saying-
city council.
You didn't, I don't know that you have because you haven't gone through
I
the
have gone
right.
to MML.
Okay,
I read their things, I have their handbooks, I have.
so you don't have
It's not
any,
the same.
you don't have any continuing education credits through the Michigan Municipal League that the majority of all of the townships, cities, and villages have gone through. That you do not have. So I'm just saying that, You have the training thing, we have that coming for in a month. What else do you have going on?
This isn't about me, this is about our.
No, I'm
budget.
asking
And
you.
I was-
We have 5 minutes to start our
Staying-
next meeting, so if you can continue on, I'll
All
let
right,
you
I
have your
will.
highlights.
Page 120, 121, under water rate. Water loss continues to be an issue the city would like to mitigate by replacing some of our water delivery infrastructure found in the areas. Is this old information? Has this been updated?
I'm sorry, where are you at?
Page 120, 121.
And where are you reading those specifically?
The water department, it says water rate, it says, middle of the page,
Which paragraph are you in?
under water rate, second paragraph.
The water rate
Water
review?
loss continues to be an issue the city would like to mitigate. Is this from a previous report, or I thought that we had done some things and our water loss was in pretty good shape. And the same thing in the next paragraph, under the chart. However, we know that we will not sell that amount. The reason for this is due to the water loss ratio.
Well, yeah, they always consider, this is what SACWA tells us, 10% to figure, even though we're lower than that, that's what we base our sales off from. Or our numbers, that's our projected sales.
Okay, so this has all been updated?
Yes.
Okay. Here we go, page 121, 122, last paragraph in the 2014-15 budget year, The city's general fund started repaying the water fund for pension liabilities paid for in 2013-14 budget year. $50,764 annually for 10 years. This figure does not appear as operational revenue, it is transferred between city funds. That's what I was talking about, was $50,764.
Okay.
And it hasn't been 10 years, so I wonder what happened to that. Well, we also said if we didn't get through this before, we would come back to it after the meeting.
Do you have other questions?
I'm still looking.
Actually, can we do this after the regular meeting? Because if I don't go to the bathroom, I'm not gonna make it through the next meeting.
Sure, that's what we said at our last meeting.
That's fine. So I would take I'm gonna adjourn the meeting and we'll be back in 4 minutes.